Hey, how you guys doing? I'm back, Lex. So this is a really long game. I'm really tempted to speed it up a little bit, but anyway, so the Borsig, I had a really good game with it. As you can see, 5 kills, 3,341 damage. Not exactly like, 5,000, but the way in which I get it is crazy, which we're going to see some stuff I've been wanting, them to fix on console World of Tanks for quite some time. One is camouflage. Camouflage doesn't work right, and sometimes you can detect people through hills, and it's really weird. I mean, seriously. And then, of course, you can't depend upon it working. So, like, this is just one match where my camouflage actually was working, but it's only because I'm behind like 17 bushes. But another thing too I've been noticing is that because I play on the PC as well, I'm starting to realize that we're actually supposed to be able to pin tanks that you can't pin right now. And I mean, if we were to say accurate, just take 100 pin right off the top of any gun that you have on console, and that will tell you it's accurate. So like this says it can penetrate 215 millimeters of armor, but you can't pin 215. You can probably pin maybe 150 to maybe even 120. We're talking like 110, 120 millimeters. I think a Luva, you might be able to pin the Luva's front plate, maybe, and then maybe a Tiger 2's if you were to actually be up above him and fire down on him. I've done it before, but this is basically a big derp cannon. So armor on this is like mediocre. You're talking like 30 and then 10 and then 8 millimeters. High explosives should absolutely wreck this tank, but it doesn't, and it's kind of odd. I don't know why, because usually high explosives will make you hit high. And so there's my first kill. So just to keep you let you guys know, I'm going to kind of complain at the same time, and I'm going to say that these guys in this room, although you can't hear them, most of these guys are talking about how, like one of these guys has a Cheeto, or a Cheetu, and that he was blocking shots in the last match with it, and he said, you should just report me for hacking because, when's the last time you ever heard of one of them blocking a shot? And so it's kind of like this, like side scraping, you can't, it doesn't work. Soviet tanks being able to, soak up, for instance, what is it? High explosive anti-tank rounds. Like, you shouldn't be able to penetrate a Soviet tank from the side, past, like the KV-85 has spaced armor. So, what is spaced armor? It's where if it says 80, it has a plate of 40, and then there's a space in between it, and then there's another 40. Or it could be 80 with an outside plate that's specifically designed to stop a high explosive anti-tank, which explains why if you ever look at Soviet tanks, they like go overboard on the side armor. They like skimp on the front, but the side armor is really high. And I think that during World War II, they really, I'm gonna say that was pretty much what was the most, devastating, was getting shot from the side, by an anti-personnel, so they added that in. So in this game, they can kind of, pawn that off to say you should be able to side scrape like crazy. But an E50, the E50M, which is supposed to be one of the best side scrapers in the game because of its spaced armor, it can't. Every time I try and side scrape, I get pinned. So if you guys hear this fan in the background, it's because it's hot. And today is one of those test days. I just got a new air conditioner. It's actually a quieter one. It's a single room air conditioner, so it doesn't cost too much to run it. But it should be cooler tomorrow. But based on how noisy this video is, we'll determine whether I'm just gonna do my, edit my videos in the morning, or because it's gonna get hotter. I mean, it's not even summer yet, really. So yeah, to kind of continue complaining is that these guys basically made some really valid points, and that is camouflage doesn't work. The gun values are wrong. You can't side scrape. You can't depend upon your armor. It changes game to game. And I'm going to go ahead and say that I've actually been getting really angry because I've lost games recently because, you know, like I said, just being detected when you shouldn't be. Like, for instance, if we were to rewind and you guys go and look back when I seen that Hellcat, he didn't detect me until I actually fired, right? But I was behind bushes when I fired. You're going to see the same thing up here where, you know, is it the noise? It actually, I looked it up and it says that your muzzle blast will give you away, so, you know, use a bush to fire. Like, basically put your barrel in a bush and fire, and it'll muzzle your blast. And if you have a muzzle blast perk, it'll actually improve that. Well, I have that, and I'm going to say that every time I fire any gun on this game, it gets me detected. So basically I fire and automatically start backing up. It's one of the reasons, if you look, I don't have camouflage net. Another reason I don't have camouflage net is because it doesn't actually work. Whether I'm sitting still with a camouflage net or not, I still get detected no matter what. I could be in this tank or I could be in the Scorpion. Let's talk about some crazy stuff. For instance, the Scorpion's gun on it, if you're just poking it up over a ledge, it would be so hard to see because it just has a little plate. There's no way you should be able to detect it. On the PC, you can actually, you know, get up on a hill and aim your gun over it, and not until you fire will they detect you. And that's because I'm not firing through a bush. But if I'm in a bush, they won't see me. And you'll see here that I'm using this bush in a similar fashion to where if I was to shoot. Now, I'm aware that this J Panther 2 is going after the guy up here on the hill. So I back up because I have a feeling I'm going to get detected any second. And then I see him up on the hill. Now if you look, I fire through the bush at him, but yet I'm detected. So it's kind of proof against proof, if you will. I'm also being shot at by people. So I just noticed that I was getting detected by that prototype, and he must have been able to see me. He must have been able to see me. So maybe I was wrong about that particular bush and that guy detected me the whole time. But if we look here, you can see I can't even see him. I can't even, I'm not detecting him. I mean, I can see him, but I'm not like actually detecting him to where I could shoot him. Now I'm aware there's an IS-6 behind me, but you can see that this match is turning south real quick. But I'm gonna even the odds here real quick. So yeah, I wouldn't even dare to attempt to not use a heat round at this point with this gun. And the reason why is that if I try and use the standard, I bounce stuff that I shouldn't bounce, or the accuracy just takes a horrid dive. I mean, it's like really bad accuracy. So once again, I'm being detected, and this time there's a guy that's well within view range, and I'm gonna say he got ripped off by just hitting my track with that, which fortunate for me, bad for him. But I'm gonna say that if it was me on the other side, I would be pretty pissed off, because if you hit a track, it's not like the round just stops there. It's going to tear through that track and hit your armor. And this thing has 13. So if anything, he should have tracked me and hit me. And I'm going to say the same thing with this tank right here. You know, any tank that has lightweight armor, your track or getting shot in the spindle should not be enough to, let's just say, it shouldn't be enough to stop you, you know, like, it should go straight through. I mean, it's not exactly, it's like a rim on a car, you know, they're not that thick. So here's another good example. I happened to land right in the crevice of where the spaced armor on the IS-3. Now I just fired a heat round, so it probably shouldn't have pinned, but they haven't added that into the game yet. I mean, I'm not kidding you. Like, a lot of the things I'm talking about is actually because we're still technically in a beta phase. Although it's released, it's still a beta version. Basically, everybody's really dazzled with how good it looks on console, you know, and that's why people come to it. But now that they've added in these particles, a lot of people, for instance, there's a couple guys, they left the game already, but they basically said this, you know, I would much rather have camouflage and my guns working and armor to be working correctly than to have mud appear on my tracks. And I'm like, I really like the mud on the tracks. I really do. I really like it. But I will say I would much rather have both. You know, why can't we have... I mean, why can't the armor work? High explosive rounds work properly? You know, why don't they... Why isn't it working correctly? You know, and that's one of those things where it's like, you know, 215 millimeters is what this should be able to pin with a stock AP round, and I can pin 235, you know, so at 215 that should be enough to pin without the heat shell. That should be enough to pin a Tiger 2's front plate. So if it's 150 and you angle it, so if it was a flat surface and you angle it, it's going to be literally times 2. So the front plate on a Tiger 2 is actually more like 230, which would say, to be honest, if you think about that, that would mean that any gun over 240 pin should pin it. So that means my heat round should pin it, because they start at 254 and they end at 400. So the heat round on this can pin, you know, stuff that, you know, would be ridiculous, but it's not actually added into the game yet. So, you know, spaced armor, beefed up Russian tanks. They did it specifically because Russian tanks, like I said, with spaced armor, I shouldn't actually be able to pin that guy, and if I did, it would be for minimal damage because of the heat round. So anyway, so because my motor's messed up, it's just me and artillery. I actually was kind of shocked that, you know, got taken out. I was going to switch to HE, but I thought, you know what, I'll probably shoot him and do 150 damage because you can't rely on it. So I'm like, I'm just going to throw heat rounds. It's totally noobish, but I'm going to say that, you know, I've lost games too many times because I've bounced guys I should not have bounced. You know, seriously, like the side armor, it's flat on the KV4 and on the KV5, and it's something like 180 millimeters, but I can pin that at a flat surface with a standard 215 round, but if it's angled in any way, I can't pin it. It makes no sense to me. Like the front plate is almost identical thickness, but it's slightly angled, and so I guess that gives you like an extra 50. It's quite a trip. I mean, because you can angle armor and it works. Like my Tiger tank, I'll angle I'll angle to the side and it'll go from 100 to 150, you know, or to even 200 depending on how steep of an angle. And so the same thing happens to the side armor, and the Tiger is usually a pretty good side scraper, but you know, this thing's like just basically a car. You know, 30 millimeter front plate is not much, to be honest. Yeah, this thing's like just a straight up, I think it's something out of somebody's imagination. So yeah, this is quite a long game. If you want to talk about like clutching though, I mean seriously, if you think about it, when this game we were actually losing, and then as they all came for me, my camouflage rating, which doesn't normally work, was working, and I was getting detected every time I was fired, but because I know once you fire you need to move, you know. So another guy, the guy that's telling me where to look, he's the artillery that died. You know, he's like got his eyes peeled for me, and I kind of realized that I should have detected him by now, which is another thing I'm going to mention. This thing has stock field of view at 480, and so I have coated optics, and I have binoculars, which means when I'm sitting still, I should be able to see this guy coming no matter what happens. And I'm just going to say it's absolutely amazing what's going to happen here. It's like you would not expect what's going to happen. Like seriously, it's crazy. I don't want to ruin it. I'm trying to build the anticipation up, you know. But yeah, I'm just the clock's counting down. It's obvious it's going to be a draw. You know, the dude, you know, I don't even know where he is. He probably is you know, up on the hill up there, or maybe he's heading for our cap. All he's got to do is just make it a draw, you know, or come back and try and shoot me. Now I don't know. I have even right now, even though I know the ending, I do not know where this guy is. Like, there's no way I could possibly guess where he is. So yeah, game's almost over, and it looks like it's going to be a draw. And the guy drove off a cliff. Is that hilarious? I couldn't believe it. I was like, man, affirmative on that one. And of course, you guys already know the stats. I get some decent XP on this though. 5290, that's a lot. For 5 kills and 3,300 damage. Pretty good. Yeah, some of those shots I did were at, you know, 7 something. You always roll low on that console. It's kind of crazy. I don't get it. You know, like when I say roll low, I mean like you can do 850, but I don't do that anymore. But anyway, let me know if you guys have experienced bad stuff too, like where you should be pinning and you're not, or you're getting detected and you're not. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Comment, like, and subscribe, and have a good one. Later.